That there's some landscaping and other creature comforts before this track is as user-friendly as it's going to be. But the most important part of any racing facility is the racing surface. And at first blush, it appears that Alabama International will be second to none. For more on that, we turn to ESPN Drag Racing Authority, Ted Jones. Ted, what can we expect from this brand new quarter mile?
Well, you know what, Bob? Even though the track is long, very smooth, and has some great-looking concrete launch pads, the problem could be green asphalt, and I don't mean the color green. The problem is when you put new asphalt down, the oils tend to rise to the surface. Take a hot, humid day like it is today, and that oil can become very slippery. But the IHRA track preparation crew has other ideas. They come in and coat it with VHT traction compound and try and seal that oil in and set it up so the racer is running literally on artificial rubber. If they do the job, it could be great. If they don't get the job done well enough, it could be slippery. We'll have to see. And for a closer look at what we can expect on that, let's go down and ask the racer himself, who is the ultimate critic. They're with our own Brett Kepner down in the pit area.
Well, gentlemen, there's nothing quite like the thrill of pulling in on a brand-new racetrack, and there's no question that Alabama International Dragway is one of the most magnificent facilities we've ever seen on the IHRA Tour. But don't take my word for it. Let's talk to one of the guys who should know. Past Top Fuel World Champ Doug Herbert. And Doug, you had to be a little anxious coming through the gates of a track that had never been run on before. What did you find?
Well, we came in and kind of underestimated the racetrack and made kind of a weak run down there. And after looking at the track and looking at what some of the other guys were doing, we got after it a little bit. And the racetrack is real nice. The weather's not quite cooperating with 100-degree temperatures. Anything other than that would be great. We need to wear some ice packs, I guess.
A lot of people were surprised at just how smooth this place is.
Well, the place must really be nice. I was really surprised watching the pro stockers run 6 seconds just like falling out of a tree up there. Really good. And the track's really good for these things, too, especially for the first half there. In the second half, I don't know, the ground might be moving a little bit, and once these things get bouncing, it's kind of hard to keep them to get them to stop bouncing because they're so long. But the track's real good, and I think the guys that are smoking the tires are just going crazy probably because it should be good enough to run a 4-second run out there if the weather was cool enough, I think.
Well, no question. One of the keys to this place is the fact that every class is running well. Qualifying was incredible, but eliminations for the first time ever on a brand new track, you know what that means. This is a toss-up. Back to you, gentlemen.
All right, thanks, Brett. Today it's hot and humid, but last night it was absolutely spectacular. A beautiful Alabama evening, and of course, that means the Scotchgard Automotive Protectors 3M Night of Fire, featuring fireworks and final round qualifying. And Ted, some of that qualifying was very close.
When the temperature fell, the horsepower came in. Look at the ETs for Roy Hill, Scotty Cannon, and Todd Payton. We're used to seeing them in the #1 qualifying spot with those low ETs on a new track. But the big news was Rhonda Hartman, a 5:16 for a rookie.
We've qualified at all the races in IHRA so far this year. This is our first #1 qualifying position, which is really great. I'm really excited about it. The crew's done a great job. My father is tuning the car, and my fiance is crew chief on the car. So together they've been doing really good, and I couldn't expect anything better. So we came out here, and before the last run we were last, and we came out #1, so I'm really happy.
Madam Pole Sitter, just 19 years old. This ESPN Speed World presentation is brought to you by Quaker State, the intelligent oil for longer engine life. And by Midas, the Midas way, the way it should be. We'll be back with more from the inaugural Snap-on Tools Super Nationals in just a moment. Welcome back to Alabama International Dragway at the Snap-on Tools Super Nationals. Bob Varsha, Ted Jones with you. We begin with Top Fuel. There is Doug Foxworth, Texas Tough from Lytle, Texas, and his 94 chassis. This was Doug before starting up, taking a closer look at that brand new racing surface, Ted.
He's actually examining the rubber buildup in the rubber tracks. You can get too much rubber down, it starts balling up and leaving, and that can cause traction problems.
There's Foxworth in the foreground. #4 qualifier against #5, Mike Smith, who is crew chief for Rhonda Hartman.
Mike Smith set the speed record here earlier in qualifying, and Smith's motor goes away. It'll be Doug Foxworth, who also is puffing smoke out the right bank, both of them with severe engine problems on this run.
There you got a look at Butch Blair warming up the tires, and there is the woman everyone's talking about, Rhonda Hartman, just 19 years of age, hoping to become the first woman ever to win an IHRA Top Fuel event.
Rhonda, a 5:16. The lap time in qualifying is the quickest anyone has gone so far. Out of Williamson, South Carolina. 19 years old, a rookie against the experience of Butch Blair, who's the number 8 qualifier.
Blair in the left, Hartman on the right. Hartman with about a car length advantage at half track and takes it.
Rhonda wins, but she slows to a 5:30. The teams have gone away. The heat's in control.
Here's our next pair, Paul Smith and Jim Bailey warming up. But first, here's Brett Kepner standing by with the sensation of this weekend, Rhonda Hartman.
It is a warm one, there's no question about that, but it didn't smoke nearly as bad as Foxworth and Smith did.
No, we set it up the first day of qualifying. We had it set up, and it was running real great, and it ran the same 60-foot and 330 last night. So we knew it was going to run, but something broke that first qualifying run, so we knew it was going to run in that left lane. And I got to thank my dad and my fiance and the whole crew, because they're the best, and I've been wanting to thank them, and I get so nervous. I get so excited because we're doing so well, and it's just great. I love being out here. It's great.
The crowd loves you, too.
Thank you. I love them.
The Hartman story continues. Meanwhile, Paul Smith in the far lane up against Jim Bailey, a two-time finalist this year with one victory, and he goes up in smoke.
Traction loss will cost him the race. Paul Smith with a 5:43, not an earth-shaking ET, but good enough for the win, and a nice 4:78 reaction time.
Now there's the 1992 world champion, Doug Herbert. He'll be going up against Diesel John Carey from Dover, Delaware. Meanwhile, it appears Jim Bailey had some problems. He's got the car off to the side of the racetrack. Let's have a look at what's going on down at the other end. The engine certainly looks all right.
Very unusual. You have a push rod actually shoved up through the valve cover, something you very rarely see on one of these top fuel cars.
And that brown splash on the ground tells it all. Oil dripping out the bottom. Jim Bailey is done. Now here's Doug Herbert trying to get his season back on track after a horrendous start. He's going up against John Carey, who similarly has had big problems this year and would dearly love to pick up a victory here in Alabama.
This is the number 6 and the number 3 qualifiers in the middle of the chart. Obviously, Herbert has to be the odds-on favor with the World Championships in his path. Up in smoke, John Carey didn't even get off the pad. Doug Herbert will roll on with a 5:31. He matches Rhonda's time almost exactly.
Doug Herbert working with veteran crew chief Jim Brissett once again this weekend in his effort to get back on track. There you see John Carey haze the hides.
Meanwhile, down on top end, Doug Herbert struggling to get out of the car. Has a little oil fire right there. The PTS safety crew will come over and extinguish that very easily. No big damage done. The problem Herbert's wondering right now is, where did the oil come from and how bad did I hurt it? Meanwhile, back up on the starting line, John Carey disgustedly getting out of the car after he shut it off when he blazed the hides and went straight up in smoke.
There's a closer look at Herbert's car. Oil all over those pipes. So here's a look at our semifinalists. Rhonda Hartman into the semis against Doug Foxworth, and Doug Herbert will take on Paul Smith in the next round of Top Fuel. Now it's time for Big Daddy's Inside Scoop. Don Garland's talking Top Fuel technology, brought to you by Mopar, parts division of the Chrysler Corporation.
In my opinion, one of the major breakthroughs in technology in drag racing came with the advent of the onboard computer, such as this car right here is carrying. This little device retrieves information from every run that is absolutely mind-boggling. We take the information out of this device and we take it to the PC in the trailer. After the information is downloaded from the onboard computer to your PC, this is what we have to work with. A lot of information on this screen. Engine RPM, drive shaft RPM, G-force, clutch slippage, and the real important fuel flow. Now you take all of this information, you put it together, and it causes the car to go faster for the next run. And in my opinion, this is the device that was brought out in the 80s and is going to carry us into the 21st century with lots more performance increases.
All right, thanks, Big Daddy. We'll take a quick time out, and when we return to Alabama, alcohol funny cars. Welcome back to Sweet Home, Alabama International Dragway and the Snap-on Tools Super Nationals. We're ready for alcohol funny cars, 2,500 horsepower, burning alcohol, making incredible speeds. Our first pair, Corky East and against Scott Weiss. Weiss, the winner of the recent Spring Nationals in Bristol, Tennessee. Corky East, the proprietor of the Nebraska Motorplex. We'll visit a little later this summer here on ESPN for the Mid-America Nationals.
Corky driving a 92 Trans Am bodied funny car, 526 cubic inches of that reproduction Chrysler Hemi engine against Scott Weiss, who's done very well. He's in a 94 Mustang GT body.
Very odd body shape. We don't see that kind of Ford body work in the funny car ranks very often. Both cars stage, good launch for both drivers, but Weiss gets the advantage and then loses it. Look at Corky East all over the racetrack.
What a great driving job for Corky East. You were right, Scott Weiss, a brilliant hole shot, but he couldn't maintain.
There's Ricky Bowie from Greenwood, South Carolina, going up against Mike Rieger from Croydon, Colorado. Our first look at him this year.
Talk about the middle of the field. This is the number 4 and 5 qualifiers. Both of these competitors in the first round of competition turned 6:15 each.
Oh, now Rieger has shut down. Problems for him. It'll be a pass for Ricky Bowie. Let's see what he can do.
Bowie on the freebie. Let's see if he drives it out. No, shuts it down early to save the motor. Doesn't want to go for lane choice.
Lane choice goes to the quickest ET in each pass. There's Todd Payton on the left, the reigning world champion, who passed on Friday qualifying, made his 2 passes on Saturday and went right to the top of the charts. His opponent, Monty Todd, the hometown favorite from Montgomery, Alabama.
You know, Todd has a great racing background. His father, Buck Todd, operated drag strips for years here in the state of Alabama.
Off the line, problems for Payton. Monty Todd will advance.
Payton went up in smoke. There goes a blower belt for Monty Todd, but it was okay. He got to the finish line first with a 640.
Here's our Advanced Auto Parts finish line camera. You see the blower belt comes out and parts go everywhere. Let's take another look. On the left, Payton gets squirrely, lights up the tires, and wisely shuts it down. Meanwhile, watch the right lane as Monty Todd goes boom.
And that boom caused a little bit of fiberglass damage, too, as you see some fiberglass remnants flying around in the air. We'll look at it here with our finish line cam. Look at the fiberglass remnants.
You can hear the hiss of the compressed air coming out of the shifter bottle leaking out. The blower belt gone, but it doesn't matter. You beat the world champ in front of the hometown fans.
I can't believe.
And here's the crew that's never quiet.
Told you. I told you. Wonderful, great.
When did it lose the belt? It went at 6:40.
Right before the finish line. It was within maybe 200 foot.
Well, here's a stunned local racer who just got the biggest single win of his life.
Yeah, let's go.
All right, on the starting line, a little raw fuel into the blower, and they crank that big engine over, making 2,500 horsepower. This is Mark Thomas from Louisville, Ohio, a former multi-time alcohol funny car world champion, trying to regain the title in 1994. There's his opponent, Al Billis, out of the pro-modified ranks into the floppers.
Mark Thomas qualified number 2. He's on a comeback ride right now, Bob. In the first round, he went a 6:13, but Billis, new to the funny car ranks out of Pro Modified, ran a 6:15. 200ths of a second difference between these guys going into this round.
We talked about Todd Payton, who passed on Friday, did his qualifying on Saturday and took number 1. Mark Thomas ran a 6:11 on Friday and passed on Saturday.
Billis approaching the line very carefully now. The Canadian driving a 93 holes Achieva. A little bit of a different twist in a funny car body.
We've had 3 national events. The 2 previous winners, Scott Weiss and Todd Payton, have already gone out in this round. Mark Thomas won the Winter Nationals at Darlington. We'll see if he can advance. Doesn't look good.
Nose to nose across the finish line. Al Billis, a 6:15 to an identical losing 6:15. It was very close. The difference, you see, the reaction time on the starting line.
And so none of our previous winners survived. Corky East will meet Al Billis, and Ricky Bowie will take on Monty Todd in the semifinals of Alcohol Funny Car. Now here's Brett Kepner with a track fact.
The use of computers in championship drag racing has allowed the racers to more fully understand their vehicles. Let's face it, only a few years ago, nobody had any idea how much horsepower a top fuel dragster could really produce. Nowadays, we know that it's somewhere in the area of 4,500 to 5,000 horsepower. But the Autolab Weather Instruments Corporation out of West Virginia, a company that supplies a lot of the weather stations to these racers, has come up with a new monitoring unit that was used for the first time ever this weekend on Doug Foxworth's Havoc machine. It develops, believe it or not, a reading of the actual amount of torque produced by one of the top fuel dragsters on a run, and it worked perfectly for the first time ever in qualifying here at the Super Nationals. Nobody had any idea what kind of number to expect, especially crew chief Bobby Rex. But when they found out that the machine produced 4,650 feet-pounds of torque, nobody could believe it. They also found out, by the way, that at full engagement of the lockup clutch, the car produced over 5,500 horsepower here at this Alabama facility. Now, one thing about that torque reading is that it's hard to put into useful information, but think of it this way. If your arm was only 1 foot long, you could lift a fully loaded Chevy Suburban. That's brute torque.
That is top fuel. You gotta love it. We'll be back in a moment with the equally exciting Pro Stockers. Welcome back to Steele, Alabama, and the Snap-on Tools Super Nationals on the IHRA Trail. We are ready for quarterfinal action in Pro Stock, where 0.2 of a second covered the entire 16-car qualified field. We are now in the quarterfinals. You had a close look right there at Tim Neighbors, Lawrenceville, Georgia. His 93 Chevy Lumina, 773 cubic inches of Chevy power. Next to him, Carlton Phillips, a late qualifier, made it on the very last run of the weekend in qualifying. Out of Woodbridge, Virginia, his 94 Pontiac Firebird has 810 cubic inches under the hood.
This is a brand new car for Carlton Phillips on its maiden voyage here this week, and neither one of these guys should be here, as Neighbors bumped off number 3 Billy Huff in the previous round. Phillips bumped off John Montecalvo.
A new track will always spring surprises. Are we going to have one here? No. Neighbors.
Tim Neighbors pulls it out a 7:13 to Carlton's losing 7:21.
I shouldn't say no, actually. Carlton had out-qualified Tim. Here's our next pair. Charlie Garrett from Hanover, Pennsylvania in a 92 Pontiac Trans Am against the similar car, albeit the 94 version, Doug Kirk, the 1993 world champion.
Kirk qualified where else? Number 4, Charlie Garrett, number 12. So Kirk should be the odds-on favorite to win this, except for one thing. Upsets are abounding at this race, Bob.
Charlie Garrett, the winner of the Winter Nationals in Darlington. You heard Big Daddy Don Garlitz talk about onboard computers and data loggers earlier. These Pro Stock cars have them, except the one in the far lane. Charlie Garrett doesn't use one to help monitor that 769 cubic inch Pontiac V8.
Great hole shot for Charlie Garrett, a 4:11 reaction time. Garrett picks up the victory, a 7:07 to a losing 7:03. Garrett won that one right off the starting line.
You can drive like that, you don't need data logging. There goes Craig Hankinson, the runner-up at the Spring Nationals in Bristol, Tennessee earlier this year. And there is Floyd Cheek out of Chattanooga, Tennessee, winner at the Dixie Nitrous Nationals, 810 cubic inches of Ford V8.
Both of these guys are flying. Hankinson qualified number 2, Cheek number 7, but the ETs in the most previous round, listen to this, a 7:02 for Hankinson, a 7:03 for Cheek. This is a drag race.
Gotta love Mountain Motor Pro Stocks. Great launch for Hankinson, but Cheek 1/100th better, and then Cheek has to get out of it.
Cheek, a problem with that big 810 cubic inch Ford. Hankinson, a 7:20 to pick up the victory.
We've got Chevys, we've got Pontiacs, and now we've got Fords in Pro Stock. There's the Quality Care machine, a 93 Ford Thunderbird for John Konigshofer from Otterville, Ontario, Canada. And there is the professor, Roy Hill from Sophia, North Carolina, a 94 Thunderbird. In the previous round, he avenged his loss to student Robert Patrick at the Spring Nationals by knocking off Patrick, who won that event in Bristol, Tennessee. And now he goes up against a very, very quick Canadian.
Roy Hill knocked him off all right. He ran a 6:90, a full 1,500 ahead of the entire field. Johnny K has got to cut a line here for his history.
Does he get it? Whoa, yeah, but by 6/1,000ths of a second, that won't do against the professor.
That won't be enough against Roy Hill. He's on a roll. The ET 698. Roy slowed down a little bit, and he's still ahead of the entire field.
What a semifinal it should be as Craig Hankinson takes on Tim Neighbors and Roy Hill goes up against ageless Charlie Garrett. Right now, let's hear from the professor in this week's edition of the Driver's School.
You know, we've all been to the racetrack and watched pro stock cars go down the track. Some of them go straight, and then you'll see others that bobble left or right. One of the reasons for this, and a driving tip that will help you be a better driver in all classes, when a car leaves the starting line, some drivers just look 60 to 200 foot in front of themselves. As a pro stock car leaves, the ones that go straight have picked out a point well past the finish line. You aim it on a string straight to the other end, and this will help make you a better driver.
You hear that time and again from successful racing drivers. Look up the road. Pro Mods up next. The inaugural IHRA Snap-on Tools Super Nationals. Bob Barsha, Ted Jones, Brett Kettner with you. Up out of the bleach box comes Shannon Jenkins from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. You know he'll be a big favorite with this crowd as he goes up against Jim Halsey from Street, Maryland, a pair of 93 Chevy Corvette ZR1s.
Jim Halsey, the number 2 qualifier, has been on a rip as of late with that beautiful Corvette. In the most previous round, he ran a 6.76. So Jenkins has his hands full, believe me.
This is our first look at Shannon Jenkins, but he's driving for Norm Estes, a regular face in the Pro Modified crowd, and this one is all Halsey.
All the way down Halsey. A 689 slows down, and it looks like he blew a motor as he went through the lights there. That could spell trouble next round.
There is Bill Kuhlman from Wentzville, Missouri in his 94 Corvette going up against the 93 example of Carl Moyer from Ankeny, Iowa.
The number 4 and 5 qualifiers, Kuhlman will need a good hole shot right here if he's going to take on Moyer. Moyer running 670s. Kuhlman has been running 680s and 90s, so he needs to find a tenth of a second somewhere.
Now here's the classic Pro Mod combination, a nitrous-boosted gas-burning machine. Power plant of Bill Kuhlman.
Kuhlman with an Oldsmobile engine, incidentally, an unusual setup. Kuhlman a nice hole shot, but now has a problem. Moyer hums on through there with a 675.
Kuhlman had him dead to rights off the line, a 460 to a 505. Kuhlman gets off that concrete launch pad dangerously close to the center line and had to get out of it. Here comes Chris Hunt from Killen, Alabama, in a 93 Chevy Lumina. He'll be going up against the 94 Lumina Z34 of Jeff Enslin from Lakeland, Florida.
Hunt qualified number 3, a position he's not used to being in, so he has that Lumina powered by a 698 cubic inch Pontiac, really humming.
Crewman reaches into Enslin's car to crank up that nitrous oxide bottle, adding oxygen to the fuel burning process and more horsepower.
In the first round of action, Hunt ran a 673, Enslin a 685. Enslin needs a hole shot to make the difference up. He'll push the tree, and he pushed it too far. A red light start.
Absolutely, a foul and a big one for Enslin. He wasn't even close, an easy pass for Hunt.
He didn't have any choice. Hunt a 680. Enslin had to try something, Bob. Almost pulled it off.
Here comes the killer tomato, the Willies of 3-time Pro Mod champ Scotty Cannon going up against the beautiful yellow Pennzoil machine of Chuck Peterson from Dakota Dunes, South Dakota.
Scotty won that Kershaw Nice Pro Modified shootout last night, leads the points, and we'll be carrying that shootout action later on in the season right here on ESPN. Meanwhile, a look inside of Chuck Peterson's beautiful 1969 Chevelle.
This will be a matchup of 2 supercharged power plants. Scotty Cannon went 6-6-0 in qualifying and had this place in absolute madness. Said he thought he could do a 6-5 in the cool night air.
But the heat's out there now. He ran a 670 in the most previous round. Listen to this. Peterson ran a 675. And you're on board with our Advanced Auto Parts in-car camera riding with Scotty Cannon.
And the killer red tomato triumphs. Cannon
665. He found 500 somewhere, Bob. He's hot.
And how he did it in the heat of the day, I'll never know. It'll be Hunt and Halsey, Moyer and Cannon in the semifinals of Pro Modified. When we come back, we'll take a look at semifinal action, and the Rhonda Hartman story continues in Top Fuel. Back in Alabama, it's time for this week's edition of Drag Review. Here's Brett Kepner.
The reigning IHRA Pro Stock World Champion, Doug Kirk, has finally decided which of his 2 Pro Stockers he's going to continue using for the 1994 season. Neither. So far this year, we've seen Kirk in his Rick Jones-built 1994 Formula Firebird and his previous World Championship-winning Olds Cutlass. Now Kirk has decided to sell both those race cars, even though he's still running the Formula Firebird here at the Super Nationals, and will have Rick Jones build a brand new Pro Stocker to run for the remainder of 1994. So far, however, Kirk isn't talking about which type of car it is. The hottest speed secret in the Pro Stock pit area has been kept a secret until now. Here at Drag Review, we've discovered that the Pro Stock drivers who right now have the best reaction times in the class all share one very well-kept secret: radial keratotomy. Believe it or not, the eye surgery designed to correct nearsightedness and astigmatism has become the operation of choice for drivers intent on improving their reaction times. It has worked so well that Tim Neighbors, who has finally admitted that he too has had the surgery, is now leading the IHRA Pro Stock average reaction times by more than 0.02 of a second over the starting line killer we all know, Robert Patrick. We talked to Neighbors about why he decided to get this surgery done.
Well, it helps your eyes focus on, the light focused on the retina of the eye, and anytime it does that properly, your brain reacts quicker. But, you know, there's a lot of other variables in there, too. I mean, that helped it, but, I mean, you know, that could change at any time.
How much did your operation cost?
$2,500.
And it's a very quick operation.
Oh, a matter of minutes. Painless.
It was in and out in one day.
Oh, yeah, I went back to work the same day.
Do you think this is something that is really going to catch on? I mean, is it really as much of a speed secret as everybody thinks?
Probably, and I mean, the surgery will improve over the years, and I mean, it'll probably be a common thing in the future.
What else can they do to your body to make you better?
There's no telling.
Most of the Pro Stock drivers who've had this surgery performed are not willing to talk about it on camera. However, they have told us off camera that the doctors who have performed the surgery have done a lot of research into the eye's performance in a driver's reaction time ability. In fact, they have said that a very slight curvature in the back of the eye where the retina receives the light signal can make the difference between 1 or 3/100ths of a second in the body's ability to react to that light stimulus. If that's the case, you can plan on more drivers getting radial keratotomy and leaving the line a lot quicker. That's this edition of Drag Review.
Well, that explains why I saw those drivers reading newspapers hung on the fence at the other end of the pit area. Top Fuel semifinal action up now. Rhonda Hartman against Doug Foxworth. Foxworth, last year, a part of that great 4-man battle for the World Championship. And 19-year-old Rhonda Hartman trying to become the first woman since Kim LaHaye at the Spring Nationals back in 1992 to make an IHRA Top Fuel final.
Hartman ran a 5:30 in her first round, unqualified with a 5:16. Foxworth turned a 5:38, so these guys are pretty well paired up. Only 0.08 of a second difference between them.
Watch that guy stuff, partner. Great launch, Foxworth by a 10. But Rhonda Hartman has the advantage at half track. Trouble for Foxworth, and he goes up in an explosion.
Big blower explosion for Doug Foxworth as he's out of it now. Rhonda Hartman, a 5:26. Our Advanced Auto Parts photo finish will show us a close-up of that explosion. Look at the flames trailing out behind Foxworth's car.
When 5,500 horsepower go wrong, they go very wrong. Here's a closer look at the engine. See if we... Yep, look at the hole in that valve cover.
You can actually see down inside the engine. Boy, he did some real damage on this pass, Bob.
Even burned the safety cover around the blower. Well, his problem is a bonus for Rhonda Hartman, and she's with Brett.
I want to say it was a close one. I almost think you might have seen him until he had a horrific fireball. Doug really blew one up on that one, but a solid 5:20 run in the heat is just exceptional for this place.
Wow, we're improving. We need that for the final round, too. I got to thank everybody again. I want to say hi to my brother. He's racing in Michigan with Johnny West's funny car, and we miss him. I miss my mom, and this is great. I wish they were here for the final, and I just hope we win this thing. And I didn't see them at all, but I'm sure they were close because they're really tough competitors.
I'll tell you, this is a big situation now. This seems to be the jinx you needed to break was the semifinal jinx, and now we're really looking at a turnaround in points because of Bailey losing early.
Well, we want to go for the championship, and we've been improving every round each race, so I hope we win this thing.
Only one more to go.
Thank you.
And so Rhonda Hartman joins Shirley Muldowney and Kim LaHaye as female finalists in Top Fuel. Now let's see who she's going to meet. You saw Doug Herbert right there from Cherryville, North Carolina. And there is Paul Smith from Boynton Beach, Florida, father of Mike Smith, who in addition to driving in the first round today and losing to Doug Foxworth, is also wrenching Rhonda Hartman's car. Paul Smith runs a Top Fuel Driving Academy down in Florida. He's got his hands full with Herbert. Herbert with the advantage, but begins to smoke the tires. He'll win it anyway.
Doug Herbert, a 5:26. That's the time that Rhonda turned in the most previous round. What a final this is going to set up to be.
The good news is that the 5:26 you ran by 0.02 of a second will give you lane choice in the final round against Rhonda. The question is there a difference?
I don't know. I don't think there's a whole lot of difference out there right now, but who knows? Maybe for the final there will be a difference. Maybe it'll cool down a little bit. This car doesn't smoke tires all the way through the lights. It felt like it started smoking tires about 700 feet.
It did, and it kept going.
That probably lost a tenth right there, so if we can get that out, and this thing can probably run 290 or something out here.
What do you think's turned Herbert's luck around this weekend?
I don't know. These guys have worked awful hard for a long time. We haven't got a piece of cheese, so, you know, Dan and Tony and all these guys, and Brissett coming back didn't hurt anything either.
We'll see you in the final.
Okay, thanks.
And what a final it'll be. Doug Herbert on the comeback trail looking to regain his world championship. Rhonda Hartman hoping to become the first Distaff Top Fuel champion in IHRA history. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We move on to semifinal action in Alcohol Funny Car. You saw Al Billis. Here's his opponent, Corky East.
He's qualified number 3 and has been turning consistent 16s. The whole field is running 16s at this particular event. So it's hard really to pick a favorite. Corky is the lower qualifier, has a lot of experience in Alcohol Funny Car.
526 cubic inches, running on alcohol with a supercharger, making about 2,500 horsepower. This is one of the best performances Corky has ever had. If he makes the final, it'll be his second ever. Al Billis has never made an Alcohol Funny Car final, but this is his first season in the class.
Billis taking advantage of that mountain motor rule in Alcohol Funny Car. He's punched his out to 541 cubic inches.
Billis knows alcohol-burning motors. He ran them in Pro Modified. Wow, trouble off the start. Billis stumbles. Give it to East.
Corky East, a 632 as he slows down a little bit, 221 miles per hour. That won't get the job done in the final.
There's the beautifully turned out Star Rider for Ricky Bowie going up against Monty Todd. Advantage at the start line to Bowie.
Ricky Bowie with a nice hole shot cranks out a 619 to put Monty on the trailer. Monty a 637. That's a good run for Monty. Bowie back in those teams. Take a look at it one more time. You can see at the 8-mile mark is where the horsepower and the big charge came on for Ricky.
Ricky, you started out qualifying with some horrible problems. This has been the complete turnaround weekend for you.
Well, in Bristol, we found out we had mags, and up here we thought we had it fixed, and we ended up having coil problems.
All electrical, huh?
Yeah, and we got that fixed, and really, I think the car's come around good. Chris done the real great tuning job for the clutch. This track has really come up, and the track's sticky. We put the numbers down, and we got one more round. I hope we can do it.
I'll tell you, 619 gives you lane choice, so that's half the battle.
That's great. That's great. This is going to be something else of a track in a couple of years, I guarantee.
You guys need this win. Good luck.
Oh, that's been a long time. Thank you.
A long time indeed. Ricky Bowie going into his first Alcohol Funny Car final. Corky East will be in his second. It should be an interesting final in Alcohol Funny Cars. But we've got semifinals in Pro Stock coming up. Alabama International Dragway, the Door Slimer class is up next. But first, here's Brett in the pits.
Well, so far, the Super Nationals have been a dream for Doug Herbert compared to any number of races over the last 6 months that the Herbert Performance Parts team has had trouble in. Right now, the only problem they have going into the final is just one piston that they had to change, and it's not hurt that bad at all. The second ring on this piston is now stuck inside this slug because the heat and compression smashed it down. The piston isn't burned on the top or anything. It's just hurt enough for them to replace it. That's what the crew's doing, and they'll be ready for Rhonda Hartman in the final round.
Doug Herbert hanging by his fingernails once again. What a great final that's going to be. Right now it's semifinal action in Pro Stock. Greg Hankinson in the yellow car in the far lane. In near lane, Georgian Tim Neighbors.
Tim Neighbors with a nice hole shot of 4.50, but Hankinson's on a roll. Look at him hit the finish line, 7.06.
Once again, here's Brett Kepner in the pits.
You might remember at the recent IHRA Spring Nationals the problems that Jim Halsey and the Castrol GTX Corvette crew had just before their final round appearance. They had to change motors after one of the engines exploded into flames just off the starting line. Well, that engine explosion you just saw in the second round of competition here at the Super Nationals resulted in them yanking the motor that was in the car. And guess which one's going in the car? That's right, the same motor that had the fiery problem at Bristol. But the crew has rebuilt that engine, and they say this time around their luck will be different.
Well, here's a look at what Brett is talking about. On the left, Halsey goes up in flames on the start line. Bill Kuhlman in the far lane could have won this race in a walkover, but he crossed the center line, and Halsey advanced, which led to that emergency engine change that Brett described. Here's the ladder in pro stock. Roy Hill set down Charlie Garrett, but slowed to a 694 in the process. He will meet Craig Hankinson in the finals of pro stock. On to pro modified semifinals. Chris Hunt in the near lane and in the far lane in that Castrol-sponsored machine. Jim Halsey, all 125 pounds or so of him, and that is soaking wet.
Talk about a close race. Jim Halsey ran a 6:89 in the most previous round. Chris Hunt ran a 6:80, and this is the number 2 and the number 3 qualifier.
That's the way it's supposed to work. Jockey Jim Halsey in the far lane. Chris Hunt in the near lane. Everybody will be pulling for Hunt. He hails from right down the road in Killen, Alabama. Whole shot goes to Halsey by 0.04 of a second or so. Great race side by side at half track.
It'll be Chris Hunt with a 6:74. He just out-ET'd him. Jim Halsey wasted a beautiful reaction time.
Now you ride aboard the Killer Red Tomato, the 40 Willies of Scotty Cannon. Scotty still looking for his first victory this year. His opponent, Carl Moyer, Chevrolet dealer from Ankeny, Iowa.
This could be the race of the entire day right now. Carl Moyer, who is on a real rip. Scotty Cannon picked up that fantastic 6:65 in the most previous round, so he's still a tenth ahead of the field. Moyer ran a 75. They're ready to go. Watch for a hole shot.
Our Advantage Auto Parts camera shows you just how little Scotty Cannon can see. He wrestles the steering wheel, gets out of shape, shuts it down. Moyer advances.
And Scotty was off first. Moyer wins it with a 6:74, but Cannon had a 4:50 reaction time and then had problems, got bent out of shape.
So Scotty Cannon's woes continue. It'll be Moyer and Hunt in the finals of Pro Modified. Happy hour. All of the finals coming up next. Back to Alabama International Dragway, where we're about to make history as we send our first champion into the books at the inaugural International Hot Rod Association Snap-on Tools Super Nationals. There is 19-year-old Rhonda Hartman, just 1 year into her Top Fuel driving career. There is the 1992 world champion, Doug Herbert. He is in his 12th Top Fuel final in IHRA competition. Rhonda is in her first.
Doug Herbert is the man that stopped the last female competitor that was bidding to win a Top Fuel national title. That was Kim LaHaye in 1992. Don Garlitz did the job previous to that clear back in 1976 when he stopped Shirley twice.
Side by side, Hartman gets great traction. Herbert gets none, and it's over just as soon as it begins.
Rhonda Hartman with a whole shot of 480. She coupled that with a 5:26 elapsed time. Rhonda Hartman has done it. The first female winner in Top Fuel history.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Good job.
This is the one you've been waiting for.
Oh my God, I just wish my mom, I wish my brother were here. And I really want to dedicate this to my older brother. He died last year. And I wish he was here to see this because this is fantastic. Our family's been struggling in this racing adventure. And this is the first win for both my brother and the whole family, my dad and I, in a long time.
This is the one you've been waiting for. And like I said, against Herbert on an unknown track, everybody figured the old pro would have the advantage here, and you showed him.
Well, he had me nervous for sure. He's a great competitor, and he's real tough out there. Everyone's been tough this weekend, and we've done great. And got to thank the crew, my whole family. They're just awesome. I just love them.
Well, I'm sure the word will get to Michigan real quick, by the way.
Well, I hope so, because I'm so ecstatic. This is great.
She beat Doug Herbert at the starting line, and she beat him at the big end. That's what happens, I guess, when you send a man out to do a woman's work. Rhonda Hartman, the first IHRA Top Fuel female champion. From now on, she's not a female, she's just a racer. We move to the Pro Stock final. The professor in the near lane, Roy Hill. In the far, Craig Hankinson bidding for his first win. 26th final for Roy Hill, the second for Hankinson.
Hankinson needed a whole shot. He got it, Bob. He's out on Hill now. Hill's catching him. Does he have enough? Yes, Hill nips him at the finish line with a 6:94. Hankinson could only manage a 7:08.
What a race, guys.
Don't tell me it was close.
This Ford Thunderbird has done nothing but march. My guys, my whole crew is the reason I'm here. And I mean, that was the greatest feeling I could have coming back from Darlington crashing. We went out and we got runner-up at Jackson. We went to Bristol and we ran good, but I got beat by a student. He just did his job. That's what I've done today. And I thank so many people. And all of you know who you are. IHRA, you've got a heck of a facility here.
Yeah.
And the next time we come, it'll be fast. How did it run?
694 again, 1400ths ahead of Craig. You did drive it out this time, though. It went 200.
We stayed in it. It's still loose. It's a great feeling to be back in the winner's circle.
No question about it, Professor. 4 passes, all of them under 7 seconds. We move on to alcohol funny cars. There was Floyd Corky East, and this is Ricky Bowie. Talk about a couple of seasoned veterans here.
Ricky Bowie has never been in an alcohol funny car final, but he's been in funny cars. He used to drive nitro funny cars, as a matter of fact. They used to call him Rollover Ricky because he had that spectacular roll at Darlington about 10 years ago.
Each man has been racing for decades in all sorts of drag racing competition.
This is the number 3 and the number 4 qualifiers. Both of them have been running consistent 16s, except for Corky, who slowed to a 6:32 in the most previous round.
This is our 4th national event of the year. We have yet to have a 2-time winner. Absolutely staggering competition on the International Hot Rod Association trail this year.
Sometimes it may seem like a long time in staging these alcohol funny cars because they do not have a heat problem.
That's right, that alcohol burns very cool. Up come the RPM as both cars stage. Great launches. The better one goes to Ricky Bowie in the near lane, and he holds the advantage to the end.
Ricky Bowie, a 6:13 comes through when he needs it. Corky East losing with a 6:27.
And you can bet car owner Larry McBride and the crew are going to be ecstatic.
All right.
And after all this, a 6:13 in this heat from this thing.
Oh, Lord, I'd like to thank the good Lord for giving us a safe race and getting to do this. And my sponsors, the small sponsors that we do have right now, Clevite 77, Loctite Permatex, Ronnie Beck Alignment, Southern Automotive, and Kugel for helping us out. I mean, it's been great. And McBride family for giving me a car to win. Chris and Moose and Kenny and all the guys, man, I got. Joe, I'm glad to see you like this, that upside down. Way to go, Rick.
We are too, Ricky. And now we move to our final professional category, Pro Modified. Now, if we're going to see our first 2-time winner this season, this could be the guy, Carl Moyer, who won the Spring Nationals at Bristol. To do it, he's going to have to get around Chris Hunt in his very first Pro Mod final.
Chris Hunt qualified number 3. Moyer, the number 5 qualifier. According to the mathematics, he shouldn't even be here. Moyer's been running 670s. Chris Hunt has been running about 680s with 1 673 in round number 2.
Chris Hunt knows what it means to be in a championship final. He made one back in 1992 in Pro Stock before moving over to the wilder Pro Modified ranks. Blue nitrous bottle gets a little extra twist as Carl Moyer brings his car to the line at age 51, our oldest finalist this weekend,
against the youth and quick reflexes of 24-year-old Chris Hunt. Warming the car up now, getting ready to stage so carefully because they need all of the rollout. These cars have such violent reaction that you have to be staged very lightly or you can red light, a legitimate red light, very easily.
Rollout, of course, is the movement of the car from stationary to the light beam at the beginning of the race. Just a few inches, and there is Carl Moyer carrying the wheels off the launch pad, gaining an advantage.
Identical reaction times, but it'll be Carl Moyer with a 664, 210 miles per hour. Both of those cars had identical 494 reacts.
I don't know whether to be astounded by the racetrack or Carl Moyer or both. I guess I have to be by both. Can you believe that kind of number in the final?
Well, we was saving a tune-up, and we needed to save it for the final, and it showed a little life.
Man, the nitrous oxide push system that did so well for you at Bristol, it's got to be an advantage in these conditions. There's no way else you can explain this.
No question about it. I'd say it probably give us about 500ths at a minimum on that last pass, but we saved until then, and that was the way we had planned it all day long if we made it that far. So happy to be here.
It's nice that you're smiling this time.
Yeah, I love it.
Great job.
Carl Moyer, our first two-time winner in the 1994 season. But the story of the day has to be that young lady, Rhonda Hartman. We'll be back. Presentation has been brought to you by Super 8 Motels. With over 1,000 locations nationwide, life's great at Super 8. Here's a look at the points, Ted Jones.
In top field, Jim Bailey moves into the lead because Tommy Johnson did not attend, but look at third place out of nowhere, Rhonda Hartman. Then in pro stock, Charlie Garrett takes the lead, but narrowly over Craig Hankinson. Roy Hill, with that win today, moves into a close third place. In pro modified, Scotty Cannon picks up the lead with over 400 points over Carl Moyer, who has 2 victories. Jim Halsey moves into third place. And finally, in alcohol funny car, Todd Payton, the defending world champion, doing a good job defending. Ricky Boy, with his win here today, moves into second place. And Mark Thomas, the former world champion, would like to repeat as he attacks from the third place position. Our next stop on the IHRA trail will be the Snap-on Tools Empire Nationals from New York International Raceway Park, Monday, July 25th at 12:30 a.m. Eastern Time. I'm Bob Barsha for Ted Jones and Brett Kepner. Thanks for being with us. So long, everyone.